Have you ever felt the kind of loneliness that lingers not just in your heart, but in your bones? The kind that comes quietly, after the phone stops ringing, after the visitors stop coming, after the routines fade, and the silence settles in like a fog. What if I told you that kind of loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally, it changes your brain, literally? Scientists now know that chronic loneliness can shrink the parts of your brain responsible for memory, focus, and emotional stability. It's not just a feeling. It's a slow, silent rewiring one that can make aging harder, foggier, and more painful than it needs to be. But there's good news too, because the same way loneliness changes your brain, connection, even in small doses, can begin to heal it. In this video, we'll explore what loneliness does to the aging brain and how to gently push back against it, no matter your circumstances. Let's begin. What loneliness really feels like in old age. Loneliness, in your later years, doesn't always look like sitting alone in a dark room. Sometimes, it's being surrounded by people but feeling invisible. Sometimes, it's going days without hearing your name spoken aloud. Sometimes, it's waiting by the phone, and it never rings. It's not just about being alone. It's about feeling forgotten, unneeded, unseen. You might go to the store, exchange polite greetings, even smile, but deep down, there's a silence no one else seems to notice. And after a while, you stop expecting anything different. This kind of loneliness isn't loud. It's quiet, lingering, heavy, and it's more common than most people realize. Studies show that nearly 1 in 4 seniors over 65 feel significantly lonely, and that number climbs sharply after age 75, but very few talk about it. Because there's a kind of shame attached, as if feeling alone means you've failed at something, as if your worth is measured by how many people still check in. But here's the truth. Loneliness is not your fault. It's part of the reality many face as they outlive friendships, retire from work, and lose the daily interactions that used to fill their days. And yet, it's not something we have to accept as permanent, because the brain may change under loneliness, but it can also change with connection. The brain's biology. How loneliness triggers physical changes. When we think of loneliness, we often picture it as something emotional, a sad mood, a sense of emptiness. But inside the brain, loneliness does far more than tug at the heart. It activates stress centers in your brain, especially the amygdala and hypothalamus, the same regions triggered during fear or danger. Your body doesn't just feel alone, it thinks it's under attack. In response, your brain sends signals to release cortisol, the stress hormone. And when that hormone sticks around for weeks, months, even years, it starts to physically change your brain. The hippocampus, which helps with memory and learning, begins to shrink. The prefrontal cortex, which handles focus, decision-making, and emotional regulation, starts to thin. Even the immune system becomes less effective, making you more vulnerable to illness and fatigue. It's like a slow erosion, not dramatic at first, but steady. And the worst part? You might not even notice it's happening until the fog sets in. You forget more. You feel unmotivated. You withdraw. And the cycle continues. But understanding this is power. Because if loneliness can rewire your brain in one direction, it means connection can help rewire it back. And that brings us to what happens next. Cognitive decline, memory, focus, and speed. Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you were there? Lost your train of thought mid-sentence? Struggled to recall a word that used to come easily? For most of us, occasional forgetfulness is part of aging. But when loneliness becomes chronic, it doesn't just fog the mind, it accelerates mental decline. Research shows that seniors who feel persistently lonely are up to 60% more likely to develop dementia. That's not a scare tactic, it's a wake-up call. Here's why. Without regular interaction, your brain has fewer chances to stretch, respond, and stay alert. It's like a muscle, and when left unused, it starts to atrophy. Over time, you may notice short-term memory slipping more often, difficulty concentrating or staying engaged, trouble following conversations, especially in noisy environments, a slower processing speed when making decisions or reacting. And sadly, the more this happens, the more people tend to pull away afraid of embarrassment, of being seen as slipping. But isolation only deepens the damage. The less we connect, the more our brains retreat inward. And the more we retreat, the harder it is to come back. But here's the hopeful truth. Mental sharpness isn't gone forever. Even simple interactions, a phone call, a laugh, a shared story reawaken parts of your brain that have gone quiet. And that's where healing begins. Emotional toll, anxiety, depression, and withdrawal. Loneliness doesn't just cloud your thinking. It weighs on your heart. You might not call it depression. Maybe it just feels like tiredness, like a quiet sadness that follows you around. Some days, you're not even sure why you feel heavy, you just do. But that's what loneliness does. It alters the brain's chemistry, reducing the flow of feel-good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. That can lead to persistent low mood, trouble sleeping, loss of appetite or overeating, feelings of worthlessness or hopelessness. And anxiety often creeps in too. You might worry more about your health, your future, or being a burden. Small problems start to feel overwhelming. You overthink things that never used to bother you. Over time, you may stop reaching out altogether. Not because you don't want to connect, but because you expect not to be heard. That's the cruel trick of chronic loneliness. It convinces you to withdraw even further. And every step back makes the next one harder. But here's what matters most. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're human. And your emotions, even the heavy ones, are not a sign of failure. They're signals. They're asking for connection, understanding, and care. And the beautiful thing is, even small moments of warmth can begin to lift the fog. Why connection protects the brain. If loneliness harms the brain, then connection is its medicine. And no, it doesn't have to be a room full of people or constant social activity. Even small, meaningful moments of connection can literally light up your brain. When you talk to someone who listens, when you laugh with a friend, when you hold a warm hand or get a hug from your grandchild, your brain responds. It releases chemicals like oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, the same ones that regulate your mood, reduce stress, and boost memory. And this isn't just emotional fluff, it's real biology. The prefrontal cortex becomes more active, improving decision-making and attention. The hippocampus, critical for memory, becomes more engaged and resilient. Even your immune system strengthens, making you more resistant to illness and fatigue. Social interaction, even brief, keeps your brain stimulated and flexible. It strengthens the very neural networks that loneliness weakens. And it doesn't require perfect relationships. A friendly chat with your neighbor, a phone call once a week, even conversations with a community group, caregiver, or online friend, they all count. It's not about popularity. It's about belonging, feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling needed. Connection reminds your brain and your spirit that you matter. And that reminder, repeated over time, changes everything. The danger of silent loneliness. Not all loneliness is obvious. Some people talk to others every day and still feel deeply alone. Some smile in public, stay polite at family dinners, and nod along in conversations, but inside feel completely disconnected. This is what we call silent loneliness, and it can be even more dangerous than being physically alone. Because when loneliness hides beneath a functioning routine, it goes untreated. No one checks in. No one notices the emotional distance. And sometimes, not even you, realize how much you're fading. You stop sharing how you really feel. You downplay your needs. You convince yourself, I'm fine. Others have it worse. But inside, the same biological changes are taking place. Higher stress hormones, increased inflammation, mental fatigue, emotional numbness. And the worst part is, you might start to believe it's normal, that this is just how aging feels. That disconnection is just part of the deal. But it's not. You weren't meant to just survive your later years. You were meant to still feel alive. So if you've grown used to the silence, or you know someone who has paused and ask, "When was the last time I truly felt seen?" Even just noticing the loneliness is a powerful first step. Because what's hidden can't be healed, but what's acknowledged can finally start to shift. Small shifts that rewire the brain positively. The most hopeful part about loneliness is this: your brain can heal. Just as loneliness rewires the brain in ways that dim its function, connection even in small daily doses can light it back up. And it doesn't take a dramatic life change. Sometimes, all it takes is a tiny shift in routine. Here are a few gentle habits that are proven to strengthen your mind, lift your mood, and begin to rewire your brain toward connection. 1. Talk to one person each day. It could be a neighbor, the cashier, a friend on the phone. Even a short conversation activates memory, empathy, and focus. 2. Write letters or emails. Writing is powerful for emotional regulation and brain clarity. Sending a letter, even if it's never returned, strengthens neural pathways involved in memory and emotional expression. 3. Volunteer or mentor someone younger. Helping others gives you a sense of purpose and connection. Even 1 hour a week boosts cognitive and emotional health. 4. Join a group in person or virtual. Book clubs, walking groups, community centers, even online discussion circles can provide meaningful connection and regularity. 5. Practice gratitude every morning. Writing down or saying 3 things you're thankful for actually strengthens the prefrontal cortex and helps reframe your thoughts away from isolation. None of these actions are magic, but when repeated consistently, they begin to reverse the damage loneliness causes. They remind your brain and your heart that connection is still possible, that joy can still be created, that even after long silence, it's never too late to begin again. Real-life story, the turnaround. Let me tell you about Marion. She's 76, lives alone, lost her husband 6 years ago. Her children live in other states, and the calls, well, they got fewer over time. Marion wasn't depressed, at least not in the way most people picture it. She got up each day, made her tea, kept her house tidy, but inside, she felt like life had quietly ended. Not in a tragic way, just in a slow fade. Her memory started slipping. She forgot names she'd known for decades. She stopped cooking real meals and stopped reaching out to friends. One day, while searching for something online, she came across a community quilting group in her town. She hesitated. It had been years since she'd gone anywhere new, but something in her, maybe curiosity, maybe hope, nudged her to go. That small decision changed everything. She didn't become the life of the party. She didn't make 100 new friends, but she sat in a circle, listened to laughter, learned new patterns, shared old stories, and little by little, her brain and her life came back online. Her memory improved. Her mood lifted. She started sleeping better, and she began looking forward to Mondays again. Marion says, "It wasn't the quilting. It was the presence of people who saw me, who waited for me to show up." You don't need a quilting group, but maybe you need your version of it, something small and steady that reminds you you're not done yet. Because even one warm connection can begin the turnaround. Take a breath. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you truly felt connected? Not just polite small talk, not just background noise, but real connection, the kind that made you feel seen, heard, and valued. If it's been a while, you're not alone, but you also don't have to stay in that place. Loneliness can reshape the aging brain. Yes, but so can one decision to reach out, to show up, to invite someone in, or let them in when they offer. So here's your gentle challenge. Call someone today, even if you haven't talked in a while. Write a note, join a group, or simply smile first. Take one small action that reminds your brain, I still belong, I still matter, because you do. And if this video made you feel a little less alone, drop a comment below and write just one word, still here. Let others see it, and know they're not alone either. You never know whose heart you'll reach just by showing up. If you've made it this far, you already know something many people don't. Loneliness isn't weakness, it isn't failure, and it's not a flaw in you. It's simply a signal, a soft whisper from your brain and heart that says, I need connection to feel alive. You were never meant to go through life alone. Your brain is wired for laughter, for stories, for hands held, and names remembered. And when that's missing, it hurts not just emotionally, but physically. But here's the part too many forget. You are never too old to reconnect. Not too late to grow. Not too far gone to be seen. Not too broken to begin again. Whether you're 65 or 95, your brain still has the capacity to form new connections, both neurologically and relationally. So take this with you. You are not invisible. You are one phone call away from feeling remembered. You are one small step away from waking your brain up again. And if no one's told you this recently, we're glad you're here. You still matter. If this video gave you hope, consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might need the same reminder. Because healing doesn't start with a crowd, it starts with just one moment of feeling less alone. And maybe that moment is now.